Good morning, everyone, or if you're not in Los Angeles, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to our Insight session. Connor is on also. She is the chair for the Insight sessions, AWFC board member. And then Sarah Roche from our White Bear office will run this session with me. So today is mainly just to go over the schedule to inform what awards are out there, where can you submit, where should you submit, and what are the deadlines. It's less so about campaigning and how to get an award, but more where to submit, what are the deadlines, and what are some of the requirements. I think that's what we want to focus on. So, and we're going to go through the year chronologically from basically April 26 to end of March 27 and go award by award. But if you have any questions in between, just unmute and ask the question right away so we don't move on. So if we talk about primetime Emmys and you have a question about primetime Emmys, ask the questions right away so we can also answer it when we talk about that particular award. And this session is being recorded so we can make it available to other members. And then thanks for spending the time with us early in the morning. And Sarah, are you okay to open the session? There we go.
Should be good.
Can everyone see the PowerPoint? Yep.
Awesome.
Okay, so let's start and dig in with the first award. And that is the Daytime Emmys. They are up soon. Actually, the first deadline was last week, April 7. But there is a late submission, which is April 23. So you can still submit. And that's all the... So when you look at the Emmys, you will see we are talking about several Emmy awards. Usually when people refer to the Emmys, they really talk about the primetime Emmys, which is all the evening programming, and we'll talk about that next. But there's also other Emmys. There's the daytime Emmys, who obviously have programming, all the soaps, all the afternoon programming. Then there is the news and doc Emmys, which, as it says, it's documentary scores. There's the sports Emmys. There's the children and family Emmys, and that's where it gets a bit tricky because some of the programming could be daytime, but it could also be children and family Emmys. And then obviously there's the primetime Emmys, and we'll go over all the Emmys and hopefully it gets a bit clearer. So the daytime Emmys have music categories. The problem with the daytime Emmys is always, so they are in New York, and when they announce the nominations and the winners, it's usually the project they announce and not the names of the composers, unfortunately. So we always have to do research. But just know if you have a program that is television or streamer and it's during the day, ask your studio, ask the music department, ask the agent, ask the show producers or director if they are submitting for daytime Emmys, and then you can also submit your music for that. So that and the eligibility year for that is always a calendar year. So we are now submitting for the full year of 2025. And then chime in if you have any questions. The next award should be the Primetime Emmys, right, Sarah?
Yep.
Yeah. So Primetime Emmy is submission. The portal is open now. And that's often when we refer to Emmy, it's the Primetime Emmys. And just also the differentiation between daytime Emmys. On daytime Emmys, it's committees voting for the win. And it's basically on all Emmys except the primetime Emmys. So news and doc, sports, children's Emmys, and daytime Emmys, it's committees voting. And some of those Emmys only have one round of voting. So people vote, then they announce the nominations, but they already know who the winner is. So that's basically all the other Emmys except the Primetime Emmys. The Primetime Emmys have 2 rounds of voting. People vote for the nomination, and then they announce the nominees, and then there's a second round of voting for the win. And also the Primetime Emmys is different in that sense. You have the entire Television Academy, and within that is the music branch, and the music branch nominates and the music branch votes for the win. It does never go to the full academy. And that way, it's your peers voting for you. Where on News and Doc, it could be an editor, it could be a director of photography, whoever volunteers to vote votes for you. But on the Primetime Emmys, it's music people voting for you. And that's why this one is also an award where people campaign for, because you can do SCL panels, you can reach out to music, if you know who is in the Television Academy, and basically campaign. And the music has different categories. It has more than what we listed here, but it's music supervision and music direction are the missing ones, which is not as relevant to composers. But the ones you might want to submit to its outstanding music composition is series, outstanding music composition in a limited series, documentary, and that could be a 1-hour documentary or series, main title theme music. What's new this year, and that's important because in streaming, many shows have not a front title, but they have an end title. And until last year, this was not eligible, and this year they changed the rules. So if you have a Netflix series and there's a main title at the end, it's still eligible. And then songs and lyrics. So those are the categories. Submission deadline is May 7. Eligibility on this one is different. It's always June to end of May. So it's different than all the other Emmys. This is, spring to spring, basically. I would encourage, if you want to submit, to also become a Television Academy member. Unfortunately, this year it's the deadline has already passed. It was on a few days ago for new members. If you want to just renew your membership, you still have a couple of weeks to do so. And what's important to know with the Emmys, and I think that's often a misconception. First of all, the show or the project has to be nominated, has to be submitted. If the show is not submitted, you cannot submit the music. So you always have to check with the studio. And if the studio, let's say you worked on a documentary and the studio submits to News and Doc, you also have to submit to News and Doc. You cannot do a different you cannot do different Emmys. You always have to do what the studio does, which is a disadvantage. We work on a lot of international projects, UK projects or European projects, Indian projects, and they are submitted for the international Emmys in New York. And then there's nothing you can do because the international Emmys don't have a music category. So if it's submitted there, then the show and the actors are celebrated, but not the music, unfortunately. And you are not allowed to submit to any of the other Emmys. You can self-submit, often you always check with the studio. Let's say you worked on a television or streamer project and you ask the studio, hey, are you submitting that for that project? Are you submitting also the music? Sometimes they say yes, but if they don't submit and the project is submitted, you can still self-submit. If you're a Television Academy member, you have 2 projects for free. You don't have to pay a submission fee. If you're not a member, you have to pay a submission fee, but you can submit. So that's basically the Primetime Emmys that are coming up soon. Do you have any questions about Emmys in general? We'll talk more about others or about primetime Emmys because I think that's a big award.
How much does it cost to submit?
Sarah, do you know? I think it was $100 per project, or is it 200 per project now?
I'll get a figure for you and I'll double check because I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is around that number, the 1 to 200.
Yeah, it used to be $100 per
Mhm.
project. It's funny because we hardly ever pay for that. It's usually the studios paying, but this year we have a few that they already
Mhm.
said we are not paying for the submission because the studios have so many, so they try to cut costs now. And it's pretty simple. You do need some, and it's all on their website. You need with everything we say, we tell you now, double check the websites for the specific award always because there's rule books. It's constantly changing, and I have to admit I haven't read the rule book for this year's Emmys yet, except the rule changes. So always check also on that. But yeah, Sarah, if you can research quickly while we talk, and then
Yeah, sure.
I'll tell Chetna how much the cost is. Any other questions for the Emmys?
Hi, yeah, sorry.
So
This
if
is,
you,
oh,
yeah,
sorry.
please. Yes, yeah.
Essentially a stupid question. For a UK doc, for example, does it have to have streamed in the US?
Yes, the primetime
Yeah.
Emmys need to have had a US release. Yeah, basically they need to. Otherwise they go. So there's a project. Oh my God, what's it called? The Seven Dials and Nicodine. Is it Seven
Yeah.
Dials? Which does not. So it goes to international Emmys. So she cannot
Oh,
submit
okay.
the music, for example. Mhm.
Thank you.
And just to jump in with the cost there, it is 125 to submit plus 100 for listing the person. So it's 225 total per
Thank you.
submission. Of course.
Yeah, so it always pays. If you feel like you have projects, it totally pays to become a member. It's easy, you just apply. So to become a member, you need to have at least 5 episodes or 5 titles on IMDb that are listed, and then you can just join. It's not like the Oscars. It's much easier. But the primetime Emmys is also something that we at the Alliance at the moment are supporting and trying to raise awareness for. And so if you have any titles, please make sure to let us know at info@awfc.org, and so we can highlight your work and help to spread the word that you have a title at the Emmys so people can vote for it. I mean, that said, that's something we have, that's really difficult for us at the admin team at the Alliance that we often don't know what people submit, and still not many members let us know any award. Any award, if you submit, if you're nominated, if you win, you have to let us know because it does make a difference with voting when we spread the word. And do events also we saw that for the Grammys also, it was very successful. The next award, I love the World Soundtrack Awards. So that's also the summer, June 16 to June 15 eligibility. Submissions will open soon in a few days and then are open to June 15. They have several categories: Film Composer of the Year, TV Composer of the Year, Song of the Year, Discovery of the Year, Game Composer of the Year, Public Choice Award, Belgian Composer of the Year, and Best Original Composition by Young Composer. First of all, about the categories. So Film Composer of the Year, TV Composer of the Year, and Game Composer of the Year all the projects you've done in that category in a year. Meaning if you have more than one film, it's not the film title, you put both titles or 3 or 4 titles in the film composer of the year. So you list everything and you are nominated for your body of work that year, not just for one single project. If you just have one single project, then you just list that one. The difference is song of the year. There you are just nominated for one song. If you've written 2 songs, you're voted on for one song. I love the discovery of the year because it's for young composers. It's if you win that, your music is performed by the Brussels Symphony Orchestra the following year in Ghent. And the rule for that is it has to be 5 or less projects, and only films count because this is only for film. 5 or less films on IMDb. And a film only counts if it was released in 2 or more countries. So if it only had a UK release, it doesn't count. So I would really encourage you to submit for Discovery of the Year. And then they also always, and I think that's interesting for our members, they have a Best Original Composition by Young Composer. And that is for a lot of student and up-and-coming composers. It's a competition they have. And also the top 3, I think, will be invited to Ghent, and their work will be performed there, and then the winner will be announced. And that's basically a rescoring competition. They will have a little clip that you have to score to. So that's already up on their worldsoundtrackawards.com website. So check it out. Just for submissions, Discovery of the Year, anyone can submit. You don't have to be a member of the World Soundtrack Awards or Academy. It's 35 or 45 euros to submit for Discovery of the Year. For Film Composer, DV Composer, and Song of the Year, you need to be a member first, and then you can submit. And Public Choice Award, a panel recommends title, and then they will be up for voting publicly, so anyone can vote on that. And the same with the Game Composer of the Year. You can submit, but then, and a panel submits also, studios submit, but then that's also a public choice. Anyone can vote for Game Composer and Public Choice. So those 2, I always find it very important to do a lot of social media, because you want to get all your peers, your friends, family, and everyone vote for that. And the awards are usually in October in Ghent. And all the nominees are invited and get 2 hotel nights during the World Soundtrack Awards. And what's great is all the, a lot of agents, music departments, music supervisors, the music community comes together. And I think this is a good award if you have a nominated to go to make connections. Any questions on the World Soundtrack Awards? Good. What's the next one in the summer? I think it's Emmys. Oh yeah, it's the Children and Family Emmys. So that's June to May eligibility. They have not announced their dates yet, but it's usually, the last few years, it was always mid-July to mid-September, then the awards late in the year. So that is all the, animation, young adult shows and stuff. And they have song and score categories for those. So again, I think some of our members might be eligible for that. So make sure to submit. One thing I also want to say about the Emmys, I said that Primetime Emmys is the music branch voting for nomination and win. All the other Emmys, it's panels, and they take volunteers to vote. And we put that on our newsletter when they are requesting judges, and they always have difficulty finding women and finding composers. And I would really encourage you to be on a panel. You get to see what's out there. You get to see who is up for consideration, but also you get your voice heard as a judge. And I think it makes the difference, supporting other women composers and making sure they get nominations. So it's a feature film, Krishna. Short films do not count for Discovery of the Year. It needs to be a feature film. I do think, though, it can be it doesn't have to be narrative feature. I think it can also be documentary. I'm not 100% certain, but I think Nainita Desai was nominated for a documentary there. That's Children and Family Emmy, which Sonia Bilasova, for example, won. Make sure to submit for that. And Choi Myung, I think, was it daytime or children's Emmy that she just won? Do you know, Connor?
Sorry, say that again, please.
I think Choi Myung also just won an Emmy, and I think
Yes.
that was either the children's Emmy or the daytime Emmy. So those are really important, and no one says, is it prime time, is it children, is it daytime? You're just an Emmy nominee or winner.
Yeah, the Emmy is the broad umbrella. I think she was Children and Family.
It was Children and Family, I think, yeah, because it's animation, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
A big award that we also support a lot with events and online social media postings, but also panels, is the Grammys. So that's usually end of August to end of August. And submission is also due end of August, but the portal will be open July and August. They have like 100 categories. So we just pick the ones that we think mostly composers and songwriters in the media world submit to. And that's best score soundtrack for visual media, best score soundtrack for video game and other interactive media, compilation soundtrack. So compilation soundtrack is usually the songs and source music that they use. Best song written for visual media, and then best arrangement, instrumental vocal, best arrangement, instrumental a cappella, instrumental composition, best new age ambient chant, and best classical compendium. I mean, there's much more, but that's usually the ones that media composers submit to. And it can also be a combination. So you can, for example, submit for best score soundtrack for visual media, but then you can pick one track and submit for instrumental composition also, or submit for arrangement if you are the arranger also. So you can submit one title or in several categories. What's interesting about the Grammys is everyone, and also you can, I think that's still open, you can join the Recording Academy. You need 2 people recommendations, but it's super easy, and I think you should join if you want to do a Grammy campaign. So everyone, the whole Recording Academy votes in the main categories. The main categories are the categories that you see in the telecast, best pop album, best rock album, like those big awards that we see on the evening show, but then they have an afternoon show with another 80 or 90 categories. And every member has to pick what they can. You cannot vote for everything. You can only vote for 3 other categories. So you have to pick. So that's why usually media composers pick the media categories, but also the instrumental and the classical compendium. And so here campaigning is really crucial and getting the word out, because you want people to know that you submitted for Grammys, that you're up for consideration, and to pick your category. And for those category, you don't need hundreds and hundreds of votes. Sometimes 5-6 votes can make a big difference. So I really, if you You submit for Grammy. Well, first of all, if you have something that is illegible, you should submit for all the awards if you can afford it or if the studio pays for it, because you want to be listed. You want the music department, you want the industry to see your name. But also for Grammys, it's crucial that you campaign, that you get the word out, because every vote, literally every vote for the Grammys makes a difference on these categories, not on the main ones, but for those smaller categories, it's sometimes 1 or 2 votes that makes the difference between being nominated or not. And then again, usually here the labels submit, not so much the studios, because if you have a film, it's the soundtrack award. So if, for example, you have a film on Warner Brothers, but Lakeshore has the soundtrack, then it's really Lakeshore. It's the label that submits. They don't submit everything. So you ask, or if you self-released, everyone can submit for the Grammys. You don't have to be, don't have to be a label or a studio. Any questions for the Grammys? I know it's a big award.
Do you have a ballpark of how much it costs to submit?
God, we do that every year, and I always forget. I think it's also like $200, Sarah.
Yeah, I'll double check the number. Yeah.
Thank you.
How much is Grammys?
We also do a separate Grammy.
It's 200 or 250, I think, if you self-submit and it's per category though.
So you have five free entries as well as a member.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, Grammy. Also, when you're a member, it's around 250. Chandler also said he does all the Grammy submissions for us. So yeah, if you do 2 or 3 categories, it pays to be a member. And also, also with the Television Academy and same with the Recording Academy, you want to be part of the community. You want to go to their mixers. You want to make friends with your peers, because peers vote for peers. Your colleagues vote for you and you vote for them. So it often pays to be a member and submit then.
No other questions. Cool.
Didn't a AWFC composer win a Grammy this year for the chant or ambient?
Carla Patullo.
Carla Patullo won. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I saw that.
Yeah. No, we have several, like every year. I think woman composers, Stappa Rodi, Ariel Marks. Oh, sorry, Steffi Cannomore. I mean, there was several women composers that won or were nominated. Pina Toprak was nominated this year. So because they have this weird year, August to August, what sometimes happens is if a film comes out in the fall and then might do an Oscar run and then be nominated for an Oscar, but then Grammys they do a year later. It's just because of the eligibility. Oh, just one thing also to point out, Best Score soundtrack is film and television. If you have a television soundtrack, you can also submit it for visual media. Only game is separate. They have a special game category. But score soundtrack is video and like Carlos Rafael Rivera won for television. So we've seen television people win that category over film. Oh, let's look at the next award. Should be back to, it's the Fall Awards. So Hollywood Music and Media Award, it's also calendar year. They have like so many categories. So there you really have to be careful. It's not only best score, it's best horror score, best sci-fi score, best documentary score. So, which is nice because then you have also more chances to be nominated. The tricky part with this award is that the submission is so early, mid-October. And you can ask for an extension if you have a release in November or December. But still, it's difficult because for that award, you also have to submit a video, like 10 to 15 minutes of some cues. And if your film is not out or the television show is not out, the studio does not allow you to send that in because they don't want to give away spoilers. So it's kind of a disadvantage if your release is in November or December. It's 125 to submit. And we usually get a discount code that we always post when the portal is open. It's like 25 or 30% off for Alliance members. It's also make sure you check the members' resources because all that is in the members' resources and all the dates are on the calendar. If they're not on yet, Alexa and Jack will put them on soon. And then the Hollywood Music and Media Award, they have an award show in Hollywood, usually in November. Not all categories will be on stage. Some are just announced via video. But it gained momentum over the last few years. The Hollywood Music and Media Awards are kind of seen as one of the bigger contenders now for music. I'm still not sure who votes for them, honestly. You know, if they say there is a panel for each category, but it's not as visible as other awards, maybe. So, anything for the HMMAs that you can think of?
Just back to the video. I remember it wasn't last year, but the year previous, we weren't going to be given anything from the studio to submit, but we ended up getting, I think, some like approved 30-second clips and we just chopped them together and we ended up just submitting that. Now, I think it ended up getting a nomination, but we had a workaround for that. But generally, yeah, we have to have that reel, the 10 to 15 minute reel, which can then be used for SEL, which we will talk about.
Yeah, so here you need a reel. For some awards, you need cue sheets. So you also have to talk to the music editor or to the music department to make sure you have everything that you need for submissions. And, today is mainly about dates, but, if you're interested in an award, obviously Google them and check out the rule books and make sure you have everything you need in place, cue sheets, sometimes synopsis, biographies, music reels, music tracks, all of Grammys, the full album. So you have to be prepared. And I think the next one is the SCL, is it? Oh no, the Ivor Game Awards. So that's kind of strange this year. And I cannot give you much information. So we'll talk about the Ivors later. Ivors is like the Grammys. It's just the UK equivalent. And it's happening in May. But for some reason this year, they excluded video game and said submissions will be due in the fall of 2026 and more info to come. So we know the eligibility. It's for the full year of 2025. But I don't know if that will be its own show or how they're going to honor music in video games. But definitely, if you're a video game composer, if you have a project for video game, look out for the Ivors. And it needs to be released in the UK for the Ivors. It's a UK award.
All right, skipped one.
And then the same with BAFTA Game Awards. They haven't announced the date yet, but it's usually in December. Also calendar year eligibility. So I find BAFTA Game Award very prestigious in the video game world. You need to have a connection to the UK. So you need to, the composer needs to be a UK composer or have residency in the UK. If it's all US composers or non-UK, you cannot submit. So for that, there needs to be a connection to the UK. Same with the BAFTA TV Craft Awards we'll talk about later. What's the next one?
Craft.
Exactly. So they are usually in the spring. So that's also for UK composers. You don't need to be a UK citizen, but you need residence in the UK. And also calendar year. So I'd highly encourage you to, BAFTA, if you're UK, if you can become a BAFTA member, do it. But to submit for BAFTA Filmed, BAFTA Television Craft, or BAFTA Game Awards. And then the SCL Awards. We love the SCL. And same thing as the HMMA. When you submit, first of all, for the SCL, you need to submit a cue sheet. So you need a cue sheet. And you need a video so people can watch kind of the cues, some of the cues.
And just to
Also,
note on the video, we often reuse our HMMA reels for SCL. However, if it's a television series you're submitting for, with HMMAs, you can do clips from numerous episodes, but for SCL, you can only choose one episode. So just to be aware that if you're submitting for both, and you want to use the one reel, you'll need to just pick from one episode.
So what we usually do, we also for HMMA use one episode only to make it easy. Otherwise, you have to edit 2 videos. Calendar year eligibility submissions that do early December usually ends December 6, 7, 8 around. And then the nominations come out a week later. Outstanding score for studio film. Independent film, I think it's if the film was 20 millions or less, I think is the rule here. Independent film also includes documentaries, which is kind of a bummer, I feel. They should have a documentary category. I think it's really difficult to compare an indie film and a documentary. It's just apples and oranges, in my opinion. Television production, interactive media, which includes video games. Then they have now 2 song categories for the second year: song in a drama or documentary, and song in a comedy or musical. Main title theme music, and the David Raxon Award. David Raxon Award is for up-and-coming composers that have never been nominated for any of the big awards. So that's kind of the rule. Once you've been nominated for SCL or one of the bigger awards, you cannot submit for a David Raxon Award. The problem with that is you have to decide if you want to go for David Raxon Award. And I think ever since they inaugurated it, has it always been a woman that won that, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Correct.
But you have to choose. You can, if you have an independent film, you cannot say, I do independent and Raxon. It's either or. But you have to be aware, if you do studio film or independent film, you compete with all the Oscar contenders. So if you qualify for the Raxon Award, you might want to submit there. And then the Spirit of Collaboration Award, that's usually decided by the SCL board. And then sometimes they have a jury award, and that is for projects that don't fit anywhere else. For example, you've done, a theme park, I think, would also be interactive media, but jury award would be some special projects. I don't think they've actually ever given that or have announced, and we always recommend stuff for the jury award, but I don't think people really submit for that. Like if you have a light installation and wrote the music for that, maybe, or something like that. Definitely submit the SCL awards. I mean,
and just
100%.
To note as well on submission, as they receive submissions, the SCL upload it onto their portal. So it sometimes helps to submit early, because then you have a longer visibility kind of timeline than others who submit on the last day. So once that portal is open, have it up there, and then your title will be up. And
definitely become a member, because every member gets 2 submissions per category for free. So definitely pays. And you can do I think the lowest membership is 135 that you can get. So that already pays for the submission.
Would you say, I'm sorry.
No,
Would
please,
you say that,
Gemma.
Would you say that in general? I mean, you raised a good point, Sarah. Like in general, it's good to submit early, kind of to have your name in there kind of at the beginning, or?
I think in this instance,
yeah,
I mean, that's why Yeah, in this instance, definitely, because the portal is live to all members. So, you know, if they're going to keep seeing your name, they'll eventually be like, oh, I better check this out if they're not familiar. Um, but I would just check, like, I mean, if it's a board voting, you know, they probably will only vote at the end. But for this one, definitely, it's worth submitting early.
Yeah, for the daytime, for the Emmys, it doesn't make a difference.
Yeah.
They keep everything, they build it, or the Oscars, and then the day the voting is open, they open the portal. So it doesn't make a difference if it's early or late. Except that, if it's late, it's always a scramble. And then if you have something missing, then you might not get in, so.
Mhm.
And
Cool.
also often what happens, I've seen that with the Ivers when I submit, because you also have to upload video and cue sheet. And so you have to upload a lot of things. So literally the last 48 hours, you have such a hard time uploading anything because the server is so at capacity. And so then you might miss the deadline, or happened to me where I'm like, here's screenshots. I tried. Can you please make an exception? Because I couldn't submit. I mean, like sometimes I really all night, like I started in the evening and then by the morning it was still like uploading because everyone is uploading the last minute. You should also know, like, when we've seen that, I think it's something that we as human beings always like, we wait until the last minute. What that also does, if there's a 10-day voting period, people usually vote the last day or the last 2 days. So that is also when you think of awards and you do social media, that's good to know. People vote like the moment it opens and they get a reminder, and then not during the week and then at the end. So when you want to post on social media, it's good to know because then you can send reminders.
Good point. Thank you.
So that's the SCL Awards. Academy Awards. Calendar year submissions are due November 12th. Same as the television, same as the primetime Emmys, you can only submit the music if the project itself, if the film itself is submitted. And the music categories are best song and best score. I think that is something I often get asked. People think only studios can submit, and while most of the time studios submit, anyone can submit for the Oscars. However, you need to make sure the project is submitted. So, but it could be that you work on a smaller film and they submit the best picture, and that's all they do. And then you ask them and say, can you also submit the score? And if they say no, then you can still submit the score. You don't have to, anyone can submit for this. Voting, so the music branch votes for the shortlist, which is then the top 20 scores and I think 10 or 15 songs, which is announced before Christmas. And then the music branch again votes for the nomination. And then the entire Oscar Academy, the entire Film Academy, Motion Picture Academy votes for the win. So, it's from a few hundred people to almost 10,000 people. Again, that's good to know. You need to always know who votes, because when you campaign, when you do social media, if your peers vote for it, it's much easier to kind of reach them than if it's 10,000 people that you don't know. Then you really need advertising. The Academy Awards, more so than the Emmys, have become this big campaign thing where studios pour in millions and millions, obviously. And I find it for score more and more difficult if you don't. This is the one, if you don't have a publicist and a campaign and money behind, it's really, really difficult, even with the support of the Alliance and everything. So, but if you do have a project, they also have a list of all the eligible. People call it the long list. There is no such thing as an Oscar long list. There's the short list and the nominations. And the other is a list of all the eligible projects. It's usually about 200. But if you have a project that is eligible, submit it. Be on there. It's a repetition. Have your Gemma Castro, and you get the name over and over, and it sticks. So don't wait until you think, oh, this is worthy. Just get your name out there. The next one is probably Golden Globes. BAFTA Film Awards. Yeah, so they haven't announced this year's submission deadlines. And the eligibility is a bit different. It's strange. It's not the calendar year. It's January 1, but then they do it until mid-February. So it's a bit... I think because what often happens, Oscar films are they release them the week before Christmas, but then the UK release might be in January or so. So that way it's still eligible. And here, obviously, the UK release counts. But
we had that for H is for Hawk, I remember last year. We had the US release December and UK January.
Mm-hmm. Different to BAFTA TV craft and video game, you do not need to be a resident of the UK or a citizen, but the film needs to be released theatrical in the UK. That's, I think, and then the awards are usually in February, mid-February. It's a great award show. So the BAFTAs only have a score category. They don't have a song category. Golden Globes, eligibility, calendar year submission November 12th this year. Song and score categories, again, you can submit. Usually studios submit, but anyone can submit. There's a portal and you can submit your projects for the Golden Globes. And here, I actually don't know what the rule is. If probably the project also has to be submitted for Best Picture, but I'm not 100% certain. You would have to check their website. That was formerly Hollywood Foreign Press. It's now Golden Globes. And then Critics' Choice, same calendar year. You cannot submit for the Critics' Choice. That's they pick who this, that's basically out of our hands, but it's all basically whatever is Oscar and Golden Globe is usually also Critics' Choice. But for that one, you cannot submit. They have song and score. And then the Ivors, we talked about Ivors Games, and so the regular Ivors with the score categories is calendar year, and submissions are usually open in December and go until mid-January. And you can self-submit. Oh my God, what is it? I think it's £160. But don't quote me on that. I just paid for that. And they have different. I think you're invited to be on a judging panel, and it's also very random. And then you cannot judge on a panel where you submitted. So if you submitted for best score, you cannot film. Then you cannot judge, but you could judge television, for example. And the good thing about the judging is that they make sure everyone who judges actually listens and watched it. But you only get visibility by the judging panel, basically. And it's a lot for them to watch. With all the awards, I think the voting is always a mix. It's a mix of talent, of course, how well the project is doing overall. I think that we're seeing with the Emmys, usually the television shows that win a lot of awards also get nominated in music. But then it's also, to some degree, a popularity contest. Your peers vote for you. So if your peers like you and you to reach out, and that's also part of it. And then part is organizations like the Composers Diversity Collective, the Women Alliance for Women Film Composers, you know, making sure their members also vote for other members. So it's a mix, it's not just purely talent. And so you wanna use everything also. You wanna, tell your friends if you have something that is up for consideration, you're proud of it. You have to make sure everyone knows that it's up there. Otherwise, if you have a ballot and there's like 100 projects, you're overlooked. So use everything. And IVERS is a UK award, of course, and Sports Emmys. Sports Emmys is a weird one for music because it's kind of music categories, and everyone is in there. The composer, the music editor, the music supervisor, everyone is in the same category. So it's just more for you to know there's a Sports Emmys. Jermaine Franco won that she did this boxing music for this. What's the box? I don't know what the organization is called, but she won for that. And then the News and Doc Emmys. They just announced nominations, and Nicodin, for example, is nominated this year. Calendar year submissions are always early in the year, and then they're announced in April. And that is up again to the network. If they, the documentary category at the Primetime Emmys is only like 6 or 7 years old. And at the beginning, we saw a lot of submissions. Then the last few years, studios went more for News and Doc Emmys. And this year, it seems there's more of a balance. They're going for prime time again more, but it's up to the studio what they want to do. And it's very random, and that is all. It's political documentaries on like individuals. It's documentaries, those nature documentaries. It could be anything in there. And again, it's a judging panel. And then quickly, I want to go over. I'm just going to quickly tell you what it is. And then if you feel like, oh, this is something I want to do, check out their website. So Soundtrack Cologne, similar to World Soundtrack Awards, has a Young Composer Award where you rescore its sound design and its also composing. So check it out if you want to do that. Ima Kinsella won that a few years ago, for example. And then Soundtrack Zurich, together with Zurich Film Festival, has a similar, what is nice, the music is performed by the Tonhalle Orchestra, the top 3 pieces. And their Career Achievement Award, it was Hilde Gunnardottir, Volker Bertelmann, they are usually the jury president for that. They judge on those pieces. Then you have the International Film Music Critics Association Awards. Their deadline is usually early January. It was January 6th this year. Any soundtrack you can submit, you can just go on their website. You just send them the name,
And
Thomas
a link to the
Mikusz, Days of
soundtrack.
Our Lives. And a link to the soundtrack, yeah. But it's very easily. So there we usually submit a whole Excel sheet of everything we worked on during the year. And they also have tons of different categories. Similar to the Jerry Goldsmith Award, it's a Spanish award, but they work internationally and have different categories. We usually don't submit for that, but it's there. Emily, yes, Soundtrack Cologne also has the Pierre Rabin Music Awards. They have and the best film about music. So check out soundtrackcologne.de, and you'll see they have several, and we also put that usually in our newsletter. Camille Awards is the European Composers Association. They have their own awards. It's growing finally, but they also have a score award. Crystal Pine is a Croatian award with also different categories if you want to Google that. The Music and Sound Awards we usually put on our members' resources and in the newsletter. It's a UK award, works internationally, and we usually get a discount code for those. Then the Australian Composer Awards, the Canadian Screen Composer Awards. Harpa is the Nordic Film Composer Awards, the 5 Nordic countries. Here you cannot really submit, I think. I think it's no, you can submit. You can submit for the Harpa, but then each country has their own submission platform, and each country picks one, and then they compete against each other. Goya is the Spanish Academy Awards, César French. IDA Documentary Awards has a score category. That's quite nice. I think if you do a documentary, you should submit for that. ASCAP, BMI, and CSAG Awards are purely based on numbers. When they have their award shows, people get an award because it's the most watched, basically the person that makes the most money for the PROs get an award. It has nothing to do with talent, because it is based on how the show does, not how the music does. So if you work for a show that millions watch, then you might get an award. The exception is ASCAP. A few years ago, they started the Composer's Choice Awards in several categories, and that is a peer award where ASCAP members vote on ASCAP members. The nomination, however, is done by a panel. So they submit a long list, then ASCAP members vote on the nomination and on the win. DICE Awards is a video game award, same as the Game Awards. The Gang Awards are the Golden Joystick Awards. So those are for video game, if you want to submit. Wow, we made it in an hour.
Nice.
Let's just give you a context. So if you have any questions, but then, let's open it up for questions. I know this was a lot and browsing through, but I hope you kind of got an idea what awards are out there and what you can submit. And I, again, encourage everyone to always submit, to have your name out there, and to share with the Alliance if you submit to something. There is a form. We are reworking the form right now. I think it's on Members Resources. You can just do the Google Doc, and you can just let us know. Sarah, can we go back to the other view?
Sorry. Yeah. Oop.
Just the gallery without the screenshot. Yeah. Stop sharing.
Oh, sorry. So what was it you were looking for?
Just stop sharing, so we can see each other.
Yeah.
So just, if there's any questions. I know it was a lot of information, and today was mainly so you have an idea and there's tons of small awards, Burbank Film Festival. There's tons of small awards, and you have to always outweigh, there's often submission fees. So does it make sense? Is it good for you to, but you might have a better chance there. So you also want to start building, you want to get to know, be seen by filmmakers, by decision makers, and so you have to kind of outweigh, is it worth the 30, 40, sometimes $100 or euros? And then the other thing about awards that people often forget, once you win an award, you put it on your bio, you put it on your website, but you also put it on IMDb, because that's the first. Like if I'm a filmmaker, if I'm a producer, people look on IMDb, and most of those awards are listed on IMDb, and then you can in 2026, Shirley Song won this award, and so you link it. So when people look at your IMDb, they see, 3 nominations, 2 wins, and then they look at it and see what it is. So you also have to get the word out. You have to communicate to the world. The same way you communicate what you're doing, what you're working on, what you want to work on. You also put the awards in there. Diana.
Hello, thank you very much. Again, it was really helpful. One small question. If you apply for the award and one thing is missing, are they actually telling you that it's missing, or it's just if you don't know it's missing, then it's just that's it?
It depends on the platform. Some you cannot submit